As a homeowner, from time to time, things are going to go wrong with your sewer line or your septic system. This could be as simple as maybe a pipe is broken, or as simple as a clog. But from time to time, you're going to run into some problems where some of that poo water works its way back to the house. Today, I'm going to discuss 3 potential reasons why you have sewage backing up into your house. So let's go ahead and get on into it. Before we get too far, we got to make sure we set some ground rules on how do septic systems work. The same rules apply for public sewer, but when it comes to public sewer, you have a lot less parts, so it's a little bit easier. Once we discuss the septic, the sewer, it'll make perfect sense. A septic tank is just a big concrete box. There's nothing special to it. There are some systems that are far more involved. We're going to keep with the simple ones, the anaerobic tanks. With these systems, basically it's a large concrete box, you flush a toilet, and all the stuff kind of works its way down to the tank to where it's actually able to clarify the liquid. The vessel of the tank itself is just there to capture solids. You don't want solids getting into your drain fields, only liquid. So in the tank, we're going to see a couple things called baffles. Now, the front baffle slows everything down. The back baffle prevents all the floating stuff, the scum, from getting into the pipe and causing problems. Once you get done dealing with the tank, the next thing is the absorption system. That's where all the water goes to dissipate into the surrounding soil. Commonly, these are referred to as drain fields. From time to time, though, you might come across some older ones like a dry well, or maybe some new ones known as like a sand mound or a low-pressure dose system. For this particular system and discussion, we're going to discuss a normal, conventional, anaerobic system with nothing fancy going on. Remember, there are 3 potentials for why you have sewage backing up into your house right now. We'll start with the most common, and then we'll work our way to the least common. The first and most common thing that we come across is going to be with your conveyance lines. What's a conveyance line? That's the pipe that takes the water from one place to another place, conveying it throughout the system. A conveyance line is going to be usually made of 4 different materials. You got PVC, cast iron, terracotta, and Orangeburg. Yes, there are a variety of other plastic pipes, but we're going to keep it really simple and we're going to stick to those 4 because those are the most common ones that you'll find in Maryland. The first thing you might come across is actually probably really silly, but it's a clog. Clogs happen to the best of us. You might have been minding your own business and you just have one stray piece of toilet paper to decide to stick really good to the side of the pipe. All it takes is one. Once that one catches, guess what? The rest of it's going to catch behind it, and now you've got a blockage. Clogs can occur from a variety of defects in the pipe. If, for example, we have a pitch that's lost, a belly in the pipe, that's going to slow down the water, which is going to prevent the solids that are coming with the water from really getting enough force to get into the tank or to the main sewer line itself. If the flow of water is not good enough, you're going to run into some problems with proper drainage. It may not happen immediately, but it will happen over time. That's why it's important that you always have the system checked out whenever you have a new build. You want to look at it after a few months to a year or so that way if anything's settled, you can deal with it before it becomes a big problem. Defects like bellies are the most common thing I find when it comes to new construction. So just remember, if you're buying a house that's new construction, get the sewer scope. If you have an old house or under contract to buy an old house, get a sewer scope. It's very important. So the belly is going to be one of those things that happens with new construction, but it can also happen with older construction. Most of the time, you're going to see clogs because of disjoints in the pipe, cracks in the pipe, or roots. If you have a crack in the pipe and you have a bunch of trees over top of your sewer line, well, you've got a nice nutrient-rich liquid going through this pipe, and trees are hungry. They may be big, but they want to eat too. And what'll happen is those roots will work their way into the pipe. If you give those roots enough time, they'll work in there and they'll start catching all sorts of your stuff that you're flushing. And then ultimately it works its way back to the house. With cracks, separations, and roots, sometimes you can ultimately end up with a collapse. Like back in the day when they used terracotta piping. Yeah. The same type of terracotta like you'd see for a clay pot. They would use that same pipe for your sewer line. Wild, I know. Really, a lot of times, if you have something like this happening to your sewer line, the only thing you can do is replace the whole pipe. As a temporary solution, you could snake it out, but if you have roots and you snake them, they'll start working their way back pretty aggressively, and it doesn't take long for them to start causing a lot of problems for you again. But everybody has different budgetary options, right? So if you're in a tight spot, you might have to do the temporary solution to give yourself enough time to either get financing or make enough savings to go ahead and replace that pipe. The second most common cause for backups in the sewer line really kind of only pertains to advanced systems and newer systems. If you've bought a home that was built in the last 10 years, more than likely you have a thing called an effluent filter in your septic system. What are those, you might be asking? That's a great question. An effluent filter is a device that's stuck in the outlet outlet baffle. Remember, the shield that keeps all the floating stuff, the scum, from getting into the pipe and causing clogs. And as you introduce water to the system, remember, the tank's there to capture solids. The heavy stuff will fall to the bottom, the lighter stuff will float at the top. But no matter how good your diet is and your toilet paper, a little bit of debris is going to work its way out of the tank. The effluent filter makes it to where you're able to have that little bit of debris get stuck in the screen, and it helps to improve the longevity and lifespan of your drain field. A lot of counties in Maryland are now starting to require them in all new construction. You might be able to make an argument that yes, it is a little bit more tedious and more stuff that you have to do as a homeowner to properly maintain. I will tell you though, they are worth every penny. They save a lot of debris from getting into your drain field. Remember, those things cost like $15,000. Most of the common brands will tell you that you can clean it every 3 years. That's not true. If you clean it whenever you're pumping your system, yeah, a lot of times you'll be okay, but the problem is that most of those filters plug up much faster than 3 years, and you kind of run the risk of it backing up into your yard and or to your house if you don't clean the filter. I have a video on how to clean a filter posted right over here. It's very interesting in my opinion, and I'm going to show you. It's super easy. Almost every homeowner I know likes to clean it themselves because it saves them hundreds of dollars, so that way somebody else doesn't have to come out and do it for them. I recognize that it's kind of gross, so if you don't feel like doing it yourself, that's fine. Hire somebody. That's what money's for. Lastly, our third reason for why you could be having a backup is probably not the news you want to hear. Unfortunately, sometimes your septic system will fail. It might take a while for that to happen. Usually we say about 30 or 40 years before you have to actually think about replacing the absorption system. But there's going to be a time that you have to. Absorption systems fail in some different ways. Sometimes the soil itself is oversaturated and it's got nowhere to go. So if you have like a real marshy, mushy soil, like those real dark green strips and it's all wet all the time, even in August, that might mean that your absorption system is no longer working. Sometimes you can also have it where the distribution box collapses. Remember, that box is only about 2 inches in thickness. They're not that thick, so the sewer gas will chew it right up, and sometimes dirt will just collapse it. Dirt's very heavy after all. A cubic yard of dirt weighs a ton. It's kind of a lot. Sometimes you can have issues with roots. Just like with conveyance lines, drain fields have conveyance lines too. So if you put a whole apple orchard right over top of your system, of course you're gonna have problems. I bring up apple orchards because people do that all the time for some reason, and I don't understand why. Maybe it gives the fruit a little bit better flavor. I don't know. You could also have a blockage in the line. So with the roots, it can kind of plug itself up. But if those roots start working their way through the drain field up into the distribution box and it plugs the entire box itself, the water's got nowhere to go. But you guessed it, back to the house. Unfortunately, when an absorption system fails, it's game over. You'll see a lot of products that are being sold out there that can restore a septic system. No, I go based off of what the health department says is an acceptable practice. Over here, we don't play with miracle cures. You have to do it the right way. So the state health department and local health departments tell you that if you have a failed absorption system, you have to replace it. You could attempt to do one of these products, but the county requires that you pull a permit and you notify them, hey, we had a failure. We're trying this experimental product. We recognize that if that product does not serve its purpose and actually fix the problem, then we'll go and pull the permit. A lot of people don't do that, and that's why the county gets really upset with a lot of these miracle cures. The other thing is that if you don't tell the county that you had a failing system, you use these products, let's just say it buys you 3 weeks, and then you sell the house, and maybe it's a flipper. You know, have your own thoughts on flippers, but let's just say that guy doesn't live there. He flips the house and sells it off to another person. So now we're on the third person. So original person had the failure, used the product, sold it to person number 2 who never used it, cleaned up the house, sold it to person number 3 who's the innocent bystander who's hurt by the first guy. Unfortunately, that sort of thing does happen a lot. It's never fun when that happens, but that's why the county doesn't really let you use any of those products. Hopefully, this gives you a little bit of an idea of what might be going on in your system. I know it sucks that it's backing up in your house, and that's probably not how you want to spend your morning and or evening, but hopefully this gave you a little bit of clarity as to what might be causing that backup. And hopefully with this information, you can make a good choice, contact a local licensed professional, and get yourself straightened out so you can get that sewage out of your basement or upstairs hallway, depending on what you got going on. Anywho, if you found this informative, if this helped you at all, leave a comment below. Let me know. Share your story. I love hearing these stories from all of my viewers. Maybe your story can help somebody else who's having a problem work through whatever they've got going on. Look forward to talking to you guys later.